Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Today I just want to discuss with you guys the confusion about this new Indian law that's been passed and why it's raising so much havoc and controversy, and why are the Muslims even protesting on it. If you listen to mainstream media, you won't really understand this very easily, because I was in the car the other day and I turned on the radio and I was listening to the news. And they said there's an amendment called the NRI, and what it does, it gives religious minorities from three countries, Bangladesh, in Pakistan and Afghanistan, the right to settle in India. And Muslims have been excluded from this list, and because of this, the Muslims are protesting. However, if you dig deep, you understand that this isn't really the gist of it, and this isn't really what's causing all the fuss. If this was it, this by itself isn't that controversial. So I want to clarify this in this video. Basically, what's been happening is that these are two separate laws. So the first one, which is the NRI, which is everyone has been become aware of, is this first part we just discussed with you, is that these religious minorities on religious grounds living in these three countries can get citizenship in India. Based on, if they're Hindu, they get automatic citizenship if they're living and residing in India. So they almost by default they get citizenship. And the only exclusion is the Muslims. So this does create a little bit of controversy, because why have you start now dividing people on religious grounds when you claim to be a secular democracy? So this is one part, but this isn't really the bulk of why the Muslims have taken to the streets and they're protesting, and all the bloodshed that's followed after that. So why are they protesting? They have to understand the second part of the law. The second part of the law, which is basically two acts. One is the Citizenship Act, and the National Register of Citizens. So it was decided in that all citizens will have to now prove their citizenship, and how will they prove this? So they'll prove it through their ancestry, by proving their ancestry, and then only they will be registered as Indian citizens in the National Register of Citizens. So what this does now, you can kind of begin to see the problem. So the Hindus living in an area are by default citizens of India if they are living in India, whereas the Muslims have to prove their citizenship, their ancestry, and then only they will be considered citizens of India. So this, now you can see, and now just to explain to you, there is 200 million Muslims in India, and everyone, of course, not everyone will have their ancestry citizenship papers ready at hand. So this is really concerning to a lot of the Muslims living there. And then this kind of shows the intention behind why these two laws have actually been passed, and what is the reason behind this, as you can understand. So just to be a little bit practical, has it actually happened anywhere? Yes, it has. In the state of Assam. So this is where the protest was the highest. What actually happened was, here's a map of Assam. Assam is actually uniquely placed on the northeast of India. This is the Indian map. So you can see here is where Assam is, and it's kind of linked, and in the middle they have Bangladesh. So the way the Indian government projected this was that on the western border you had a lot of influx from Bangladesh, refugees from Rohingya and all that, and other people who settled here illegally. So before this law was passed, everyone that's an illegal citizen is understood to be at some point they have to go back to where they came from, which was pretty neutral, pretty acceptable to everyone. But the moment they said that no, anyone that's Hindu in nature is by default given citizenship, whereas anyone Muslim, primarily it does include other religions as well, but anyone Muslim has to now prove their religious citizenship, has to prove their citizenship. So what actually happened in Assam was that during August 2019, when the registry was taking place, the NRC was taking place, the people who actually lived in Assam for ages, they were actually born as Indian citizens, born there, weren't from the influx of refugees who came in from Bangladesh, which is the greatest population there, right? And most of they are Muslims. So a lot of them were not registered in the NRC, saying that you can't prove your ancestry. and these were people who were born there, lived there, their parents were born there, their grandparents were born there, and you can understand why this creates such an outcry. And the aim and the objective behind this law that's been passed by the Modi government came to light, and you can understand the consequences it would have thereafter. So basically, what's happening here is this is part of a larger Modi government BJP ideology that in this region there should be only Hindus living here, and so for the moment he's taking it easy on the other religious minorities such as Christians and Sikhs, but eventually the Muslims are probably the first target in this ideology, which is that Hinduvata, this land, all of the Hind actually belongs to Hindus, and they're in a sense they're trying to make a Hindu state, which is scary enough just at the thought of that. So yeah, just I want to share this with you so that you guys are more educated on this topic and you understand what's actually going on with this new law change.